I am Sterling Libs. Welcome to Emboldened, the podcast. I believe that one of the most valuable gifts you can give yourself is that of being true to yourself. Being authentically you and living your life the best way you can without pretending to be someone else or trying to please everybody in order to fit in or be accepted by others. Your journey to becoming more inspired and emboldened to live an authentic and successful life starts right now.
In Hamlet, one of William Shakespeare's most famous plays, a character called Polonius gave this advice to his son. He had been speaking to his son for a while before sending him off on a long journey. He said, "This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day, that thou canst then be false to any man." Think about that for a minute. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day, thou canst then be false to any man. Pretty good advice, that is. A father giving some piece of advice to his son, whom he is sending away on a journey. We are somewhat on a journey ourselves in this world. And I think Polonius' advice to his son bears true to each and every one of us in our journey in this life. And this comes home to me so much when I think about a time where I used to live so much in duplicity. And what I mean by that is that what was true inside of me, what I believed inside, is not what I actually espoused or lived on the outside. Mostly because I didn't want to create a lot of conflict. Even if I disagreed with something inwardly, I would, in a way, because of not creating conflict, or in order to avoid conflict, just go with the flow. When I traced back to where this originated from, I somehow settled on the fact that I was brought up by a very, very wonderful lady, my grandmother. She was a sweet lady. But my grandmother had one character, shall I say, now that I look at it, something that she didn't like conflict. And I think I picked it up from her. She didn't like conflict at all. She would, if something happens that was very uncomfortable, she would rather, keep it low and not create drama, create conflict or something like that. And beknownst to me, I picked that up as I was growing up. And you can imagine it affected my life so much as an adult. Even as I was running my own business, I had this problem with my employees. And you can imagine you're trying to run a business and you don't want conflict with your employees. You're the decision maker. Can you imagine what kind of mess and chaos can happen in your business? And I almost went down in my business because of this. So, we are all, I believe, on a journey in this world, in this life, rather. And I find that advice to be very, very valuable. To thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day, that thou canst then be false to any man. Many times, invariably, I would say, all the time, whenever you found yourself lying to somebody else, even if this is what we call white lies, you have first of all been false to yourself. You have lied to yourself first before you can lie to somebody else. And a situation of living in duplicity, whereby you're living in sort of double life, whereby you're one person inside and another person outside. You have this facade that you're portraying to the outside world. This happens so much when you want to fit in, when you don't want to hurt other people's feelings, when you're much swayed by the opinions of others. It's a very, very precarious and dangerous place to be living in. To live in duplicity. Some of the chronic illnesses that people have are actually as a result of living in duplicity, of not being true to themselves and having this facade that they carry along, showing everyone else what is not true, what is not real about them. And they're internally, they are busting. They are having a lot of conflict on the inside, and that eventually manifests and shows in their body in terms of chronic illnesses. I had a story of this myself, a situation like this, whereby whenever I had a conflict, there was something I believed to be true inside me, but then I was afraid to voice it out or to confront something that I felt deeply inside that was not right. When that happened, something happened to my body. It was just a matter of days and it would happen. What happened was I would start having some itchy blisters. And funny enough, they always started from a particular place in my body. One particular place. There will be little itchy thing, and then after a while, 2 or 3 days, it just bursts all over my body. In my body here, my neck area, here, and it was so itchy, and then it becomes so sore, and then after a couple of days, it just goes away. The first time this happened, I thought I had chickenpox. So yeah, it's like the blisters for chickenpox. That's the way it sort of happened to me. The first time it happened, I thought this was chickenpox. I went to King's College Hospital in London, and they said it wasn't. I said, what's wrong? What's this? And then it just, after a while, it disappeared. And then it happened again. And then it happened again. I went to my local GP. They didn't know what it was. And again. And again. And then I sat down one time and said, what is this? And I started to think, to trace back, to see whenever the thing happened, what was the cause of it? And sure enough, it always came out when I was having a conflict within me, and there was a lot of stress I was experiencing because of that inner conflict, and it just burst out like that in my body. For some people, it might be just chronic pain, and something triggers it like that. A situation, an occasion, something just triggers it, and bang, you experience the thing for a while, and then somehow it goes off. For some people, it stays for a very long time. And it's all because of having conflict, being in conflict with yourself. You're not being true to yourself. In my podcast, I made that part of my welcome message. I say that I believe that one of the most valuable gifts you can give yourself is that of being true to yourself. Being authentically you and living your life the best way you can without pretending to be someone else or trying to please everybody in order to fit in or be accepted by others. Most of us live our lives like this. We are not being true to ourselves. Not in the slightest. We're trying to please other people. We are trying to live according to other people's opinions, trying to fit in and suffering inside. And that causes a whole lot of problems, health problems, psychological problems, mental problems. You do yourself a favor by being authentically true to yourself. Today, I made a post on Facebook where I said, can you affirm and declare this if you believe it to be true to yourself? And I said, I have an agreement with myself to be impeccable with my word, not to use my word against myself in any way. That means not judging or blaming myself no matter what, and being authentically true to myself at all times and in all places with no exceptions. So help me God. And if I may just talk about this issue of being impeccable with your word, not using your word against yourself. How many times do we use our word against ourselves? But oh my God, if you knew how powerful your words are, I don't think you would do that. The one thing that is common to all of us is that we can't help but speak to ourselves. It's called inner conversation. You will but speak to yourself from the time you rise up from bed to the time you settle down to sleep at night again. You will but speak to yourself. You will have what we call inner conversation. And I've said in the past that most of this inner conversation for most people is negative. They are cursing other people. They are speaking ill of other people. They're speaking ill of themselves. There are all sorts of things. They're walking and talking all the things. Your word is very, very powerful, and it is creative. And it's important that you use your word not against you. Not against yourself. And it doesn't matter what you have done. Always forgive yourself. Don't judge yourself. Don't blame yourself. We all make mistakes. No one is immune to that. But when you make a mistake, instead of going ahead and blaming yourself and judging yourself so harshly, forgive yourself. Be gentle with yourself. Don't be harsh with yourself. Even the scripture said this. Jesus Christ said this. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, but the second is like unto it. Love your neighbor as yourself. And the emphasis for me, what I look at here is as yourself. Before you can love your neighbor, or even indeed love God, you ought to love yourself. You gotta be kind to yourself. When you make a mistake, when you do something outrageous, the last person to criticize you, to lock you out, to do all sorts of things, is yourself. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. So, to thine own self be true, and I must add, be kind. And it must follow as night the day, that thou canst then be false to anyone. It's important that you be authentically true to yourself and live your life the best way you can, without pretending to be someone else or trying to please everybody in order to fit in or be accepted by others. Love yourself, accept yourself, and be true to yourself. Good advice. Polonius was sending his son on a long voyage, a long journey, and we are on a journey in this life. And his advice rings true to us today as well. This above all, be true to yourself. Don't go with the shams. Don't go with the pretense. Don't go with all of these things. It only causes you suffering. One of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is Romans 12 chapter 2, which says, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. If you now realize that you have been false to yourself, you've been living a double life, living in duplicity, you're so deceitful in a way, quote unquote, because if you're one person inside and another person outside, you're being very deceitful. The Bible says that you can renew your mind. You can be transformed, and you can rise from one level to another, one level of glory to another level of glory. So be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Change your mind. Come to a different mind. Grow to a different mindset. Don't be afraid to grow. Don't be afraid to leave other things behind and venture forward to other wonderful things. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And this above all else, to thine own self be true. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.